Imagine you are a captain navigating a ship through the most treacherous, unpredictable waters on Earth. In this ocean, the waves don't care about your dreams, and the wind doesn't hear your prayers. Your trading capital isn't just money, it is the wooden hull of your ship. It is the only thing standing between you and the crushing depths of the abyss. Every time you take a reckless trade, you are drilling a hole in your own floor. Many enter the markets with eyes full of greed, dreaming of the treasure on the distant shore, but they forget the golden rule of the sea. You cannot reach the gold if your ship is at the bottom of the ocean. Preserving your capital is the ultimate act of self-respect. It is the quiet, disciplined heartbeat of a survivor in a world designed to chew you up and spit you out. Today, we talk about why staying in the game is more important than winning the game. In the dawn of your trading career, you must transform your perspective. View your capital not as a final harvest to be consumed, but as a rare, fragile seed that carries the genetic blueprint of your future empire. The tragedy of the retail trader is that most enter the arena acting like starving farmers, desperately trying to reap a massive crop before they have even tested the pH of the soil or understood the local climate. Driven by the hunger of bills to pay or desire for status, they throw their entire bag of seeds into the frozen ground during a midwinter frost, hoping for a miracle. When the harsh reality of the market, the frost, claims those seeds, these traders are left standing in an empty field with nothing left to plant when the warm, fertile spring of a true bull market finally arrives. They aren't just out of money, they're out of the game exactly when the winning becomes easy. Prioritizing your education means acting as a fierce guardian of these seeds at all costs, recognizing that your tuition to the market should be paid in small, calculated installments rather than one catastrophic bankruptcy. You must accept the humbling truth that you are not here to get rich in your first month. You are here to survive the apprenticeship. Think of the market as a complex, ever-shifting ecosystem that breathes and changes like the seasons. One week, it is a scorched desert where liquidity is thin and traps are everywhere. The next, it is a lush rainforest overflowing with opportunity. If you burn your limited resources trying to force a harvest in the desert of a choppy, sideways market, you will be bankrupt and broken by the time the environment shifts into a high-probability trend. Successful legends like Jesse Livermore understood this deeply. They knew that the big money isn't made in the active trading, but in the sitting, waiting with your seeds protected until the market environment is perfectly aligned for growth. By treating your capital with this level of reverence, you ensure that when the season of profit finally arrives, you have the resources to plant a forest while everyone else is left staring at the dirt. Before a master architect ever dreams of erecting a skyscraper that pierces the clouds, they spend grueling years hunched over blueprints in the dim light of a studio. They don't start with the penthouse, they start by mastering the hidden physics of tension, the load-bearing capacity of steel, and the chemical resilience of concrete. In this journey, your trading capital is your finite supply of building materials. It is every brick, every beam, and every ounce of glass you have to your name. If you succumb to the ego's urge to build a 50-story tower on day one without first understanding how to pour a foundation that can withstand a seismic shift, the entire structure will inevitably buckle and collapse under its own weight. When that happens, you don't just lose the building, you waste every single brick you own, leaving you with nothing but a pile of rubble and a dream you can no longer afford to build. In the world of day trading, the market environment is your geological foundation. You must learn to read the soil before you build. Is the market's volatility a solid bedrock you can build upon? Or is it shifting sand that will swallow your capital whole? Is the current trend a structural move backed by institutional volume? Or is it a fragile, emotional spike fueled by retail panic? Successful traders like Paul Tudor Jones didn't become legends by swinging for home runs during every trading session. They became icons because they were obsessed with the downside. Jones famously kept a sign on his office wall that read, "Lose money, not your nerve." This wasn't just a catchy phrase. It was a directive to protect the nerve center of his operation, his capital. He understood that if you protect your materials with religious ferocity during the apprentice phase, you eventually develop the sophisticated skill set required to build a financial cathedral. Without your capital, however, you aren't an architect anymore. You're just a person standing in a silent, vacant lot, clutching a blueprint for a dream you can no longer afford the tools to realize. Think of day trading not as a casual hike along a marked trail with guardrails and scenic overlooks, but as a brutal, high-altitude ascent into the death zone of Mount Everest, the lethal region above 8,000 meters where the rules of normal human survival no longer apply. In that environment, the body is slowly dying with every step forward. Judgment degrades, fine motor skills vanish, and even simple decisions become dangerous. The mountain does not care how badly you want the summit, how many books you've read, or how confident you feel. The market is the same. In this unforgiving metaphor, your trading capital is your oxygen tank, the single, non-negotiable resource that keeps your mind clear enough to execute a plan and your emotions stable enough to avoid self-destruction. It is not ammo to be fired recklessly, nor is it a scorecard for ego. It is life support. Every oversized position taken out of impatience, every impulsive revenge trade triggered by anger or humiliation, and every stop-loss widened or ignored out of hope is a slow, invisible leak in that tank. At first, you barely notice it. The gauges still look fine. You might even feel a rush of artificial confidence, fueled by a lucky win or the dopamine surge of being right against the market. This is the most dangerous phase because thin air rewards delusion before it punishes it. But the market, like altitude, is relentless and impersonal. It does not argue. It does not warn. It simply waits. Eventually, the math asserts itself. Cognitive clarity fades, decision-making deteriorates, and mistakes compound faster than you can correct them. When your oxygen finally hits zero, there's no gradual descent, no heroic last effort, no second chance. The climb ends where you stand. There's no respawn button in trading, no checkpoint to reload, no rescue helicopter breaking through the clouds to save a trader who ran out of capital. You are done, not because you lacked intelligence or ambition, but because you failed to respect the environment. This is precisely why legendary trader Ed Sikota, one of the earliest pioneers of systematic, computerized trading, a man who turned modest sums into generational wealth, reduced his entire philosophy to a deceptively simple mantra. The elements of good trading are 1. Cutting losses. 2. Cutting losses. 3. Cutting losses. To beginners, this sounds repetitive, even boring. To survivors, it sounds like oxygen. Seikoda understood that markets are not conquered through bravado, prediction, or force of will. They are endured. The real game is not about making money quickly, but about not losing it irreversibly. By obsessively prioritizing the preservation of your capital, by risking small, exiting fast when wrong, and treating every trade as optional rather than necessary, you're doing far more than protecting your account. You're buying time to acclimatize to psychological stress, time to recognize patterns without emotional distortion, time to learn how volatility shifts like sudden jet stream winds that can rip climbers off the ridge without warning, time to build the internal stamina required to sit through boredom, uncertainty, and drawdowns without panicking or forcing action. In the death zone of the markets, speed is a liability and ego is a death sentence. The trader who survives is not the one who climbs the fastest or talks the loudest, but the one who manages their air so meticulously that, long after others have collapsed on the slope, they are still moving, slowly, deliberately, and alive. When the clouds finally thin and the summit becomes reachable. Entering the live market for the very first time is not a gentle introduction or a practice round. It is like stepping barefoot onto the mat of a dimly lit dojo and realizing too late that the person standing across from you is a world-class black belt who has been refining their technique for 3 decades. This opponent, the market, is not only faster and stronger, but ruthlessly efficient. It reads hesitation, exploits imbalance, and punishes overextension without emotion or remorse. If you charge into the center of the ring swinging wildly, driven by ego, impatience, or the seductive fantasy of a single, heroic, get-rich-quick trade, you will be countered before you even understand what happened. One careless step forward, one oversized position, one impulsive entry taken without context, and you are swept, pinned, and neutralized in seconds. The market doesn't need to knock you out spectacularly. It simply drains you, trade by trade, until you are too damaged to continue. The fundamental mistake beginners make is believing they are stepping into a boxing match where success is measured by how many punches they land or how often they win. In reality, your first year in the market is closer to an apprenticeship in defensive martial arts. It is not about dominance, it is about balance. It is not about aggression, it is about positioning. Early on, your only real objective should be learning how to take a hit without falling, how to be wrong without being destroyed, and how to exit a bad position with dignity instead of denial. This is the true meaning of understanding market environment. It is the slow development of situational awareness, recognizing how the market behaves during different sessions, how it reacts to breaking news, how it deliberately sets traps for weak hands during low liquidity moments, and how its internal rhythm oscillates between expansion and contraction. You begin to sense when the market is coiled and dangerous, when it is erratic and deceptive, and when it is calm enough to allow participation. Like a seasoned martial artist, you stop reacting emotionally and start observing patterns of movement. This defensive philosophy is echoed in the thinking of Ray Dalio, the founder of Bridgewater Associates, one of the most successful hedge funds in history. Dalio did not build his empire on intuition, bravado, or bold predictions. He built it by relentlessly engineering systems designed to survive uncertainty. His concept of the holy grail of investing, a carefully balanced framework of diversification and risk parity, was not about maximizing upside at all costs, but about minimizing the chance of irreversible failure. Before he ever tried to win big, he obsessed over not losing big. He understood that the first rule of the game is staying in the game. One catastrophic error, one uncontained risk, can erase years of effort. So he prioritized process over outcome, resilience over excitement, and consistency over ego. When you begin to treat your trading capital with the reverence of a shield rather than the recklessness of a sword, your entire psychology shifts. You stop hunting for the big kill and start searching for safe entries, controlled exposure, and clean exits. You no longer feel compelled to trade every move. Instead, you wait for positions where the downside is clearly defined and survivable. Losses stop feeling like personal failures and start becoming tuition, small, controlled payments for education. By committing to defense first, you earn the right to stay on the mat long enough to actually learn the advanced techniques. How price action reveals intent, how liquidity moves beneath the surface, how patience compounds, and how emotional discipline separates professionals from gamblers. In this dojo, there are no medals for bravery and no prizes for aggression. There's only survival, adaptation, and longevity. And in the market, just like in a real fight, the last person standing is the only one who gets paid. Preserving your capital is the thin, uncompromising line that separates a professional career from a reckless gamble. It is the quiet discipline to step away from the screen when conditions are hostile, the emotional strength to accept a small loss instead of demanding a win, and the maturity to survive today so you are still here tomorrow. In the markets, longevity is not a side effect of success. It is the prerequisite. Every great trader learns, often the hard way, that opportunity is infinite, but capital is not. When your account is intact, you retain optionality, clarity, and control. When it is damaged, fear takes over, decision-making deteriorates, and desperation replaces strategy. Mastering the psychology of the markets begins with this truth. Your first job is not to make money, but to protect yourself from ruin. Building wealth is not about chasing momentum or predicting the future. It is about constructing a fortress around your capital, layer by layer, using risk management, patience, and self-awareness as your primary defenses. If you are ready to stop reacting emotionally and start operating deliberately, if you want to understand how professionals think about uncertainty, probability, and survival, then you are exactly where you need to be. This is why Risk Premium exists. We are here to help traders transition from being passive participants, reacting late, overexposed, and constantly hunted, to becoming disciplined operators who understand the terrain, control their exposure, and strike only when the odds are asymmetric. We believe risk mastery comes first and profits follow as a consequence, not the other way around. Our mission is not hype, shortcuts, or empty promises, but clarity, structure, and durability. So don't let your ship sink before the wind ever fills your sails. Protect the hull, reinforce the mast, and learn how to navigate storms before you chase open water. Hit that subscribe button and join Risk Premium, where survival is the strategy, discipline is the edge, and we master the journey together.